Now, during the campaign, Donald Trump told us that he was not for intervention. Oh, that's interesting. And he even got certainly excited some libertarians, got some progressives to like think about it for a second. Not me, but for some others. First of all, why I didn't even consider it for a second is because he is a pathological liar and he has no idea what his policy, Donald Trump policy, as you'll see in this story, right? No, and he says, oh, well, it's a mess in the Middle East, it's a mess. And these generals have made a mess, and you'll see him saying that in a second. So I'm not gonna listen to the generals and I'm not gonna intervene. So what's he doing now? Of course, intervention. Not only did he bomb Assad's government in Syria, now he's gonna send more troops to Afghanistan. I told you, he's gonna do whatever the last guy in the room tells him to do, and the Republican establishment has him in a headlock, and he's too stupid to figure it out. They just come and tell him, this is what you're doing, Donnie boy. And he's like, oh, okay, then I guess that's what we're doing. Here, look, let's go to the story, you'll see. Fox reports in an effort to turn around the faltering Afghan war, Trump's top foreign policy and defense advisors, led by National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, are recommending that the president send around 3,000 to 5,000 US troops into the country. Oh, look at that. Turns out we're sending more troops to Afghanistan. What happened, Donnie boy? I thought you didn't want to get stuck in the messes in the Middle East. All of a sudden, more troops. They give you context here at Vox. They say, today around 8,400 American troops, once numbering around 100,000, remain in Afghanistan to advise the Afghan military and also conduct counterterrorism operations. By the way, that's always how it is. Oh no, we're just advising them. And Obama would say it's not boots on the ground. And we made fun of Obama for saying that. What are they, wearing slippers? Yeah, it's boots on the ground. You've got 8,400 guys and you're about to add 5,000 new guys. And eventually they'll go from advising to fighting, which they already do, and they'll fight more and more, and a lot of them will die. 3 of them have already died recently, let alone all the others that have died. In fact, let me give you context on that. From June 1st to November 30th of 2016, there were about 3,700 casualties overall in Afghanistan, not just our guys, overall. In the same time period, effective attacks against Afghan forces increased by 60%, with around 879 attacks per month, or 5,271 total. A United Nations estimate says the Taliban now controls more territory than they did in 2001 when the US-led invasion began. So all of that intervention through Bush, Obama, now Trump, all those forces, and now after 16 years of blood, sweat, and tears, in this case literally, and our national treasure, we didn't spend that money to educate our kids, to fix our roads, to fix our hospitals, to get health care. We spent it over there in Afghanistan. Defense contractors got incredibly rich, and the Taliban controls more territory than when we went in. That is an abysmal failure, and how did we get to that failure? Through intervention. So what is the genius idea of these same generals that are going to work for the defense contractors after they retire? Hey, let's spend more money with the defense contractors and do more war and more intervention. That didn't work. Hey, Donnie boy, you campaign against intervention. What do you think? Oh, okay, I'll do whatever the generals say. Okay, let's send in more troops. General John Nicholson also called for thousands more troops to help break what he calls a stalemate in Afghanistan, where America, NATO, and the Taliban are unable to make significant gains. Dude, you had 16 years to break a stalemate. All you did was make it worse. Now you want more troops to die, more Americans to die for that mistake. I mean, forget the trillions of dollars that we wasted there, that we're gonna spend on our kids. Every day more Americans die there. And you're gonna have them die there, what, to break the stalemate? I mean, if you had any sense at all and you're president and General Nicholson or anybody walks in and goes, oh, Mr. President, I got a great idea. 3,000 to 5,000 new troops is gonna break the stalemate. You'd say, on what grounds? Show me any evidence that you have over the last 16 years that you have the capability to break that stalemate, let alone with just 3,000 to 5,000 extra troops. But Donnie Boy doesn't ask those questions because he's a blithering idiot. Totally absent. There's nothing in his brain. You're gonna see for yourself here how he makes decisions. The Pentagon, the Washington Post reports, would have final say on troop levels and how those forces are employed on the battlefield. Wait a minute, what do you mean the Pentagon has final say? We have a commander-in-chief who's supposed to tell the Pentagon what our strategy is. The Pentagon then implements that strategy. Their job is to do tactics, etc., figure out how to implement the plan that the civilians, led by the president, the commander-in-chief, have instituted. But in this case, there's nobody home. They asked Donald Trump, he's like, I don't know, what do you guys think? He's like, okay, let's just do whatever you say. Oh, yeah. He says, Vox explains back to them, in other words, Secretary of Defense James Mattis, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Joseph Dunford, and Nicholson would be in charge of making key tactical and strategic decisions about the Afghanistan war, not Trump. But we didn't elect those generals. Unfortunately, we elected you. Do your job. Pay attention, make decisions. I thought you were a big executive and you know how to make decisions. Apparently his idea of a decision is like, I don't know, you do it. So here's what Trump said. Actually, I'm gonna go to the video on what he thought of the generals before, but quote from him for today. He says, what I do is I authorize my military. We have given them total authorization and that's what they're doing. But wait a minute, schmuck of all schmucks. Aren't you the one that told me not to trust the military while you were doing the campaign? Here, watch.
We have to win. We have to start winning wars again. Now, we never win a war. We never win. And we don't fight to win. We don't fight to win.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do. Believe me. Was that the truth?
Well, the generals under Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have not been successful. And we're nowhere. Actually, if you think about it, we're less than nowhere. The Middle East is far worse than it was 16, 17 years ago. There's not even a contest. Under the leadership of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, the generals have been reduced to rubble. They have been reduced to a point where it's embarrassing for our country.
Okay, so what am I gonna do? And by the way, that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you watch the campaign at all, the generals, they don't know. They look at what they did in Iraq. It's a mess. We're not winning with the generals. We're not winning with the generals under Obama or Bush or anyone else, okay? So he comes in, okay, Mr. President, you know ISIS better than the generals, so what should they do? I don't know. I'm just gonna let them run it. Commander-in-chief, I don't know what that means. What, you told me all these generals are a mess. They were a mess a day ago before you got into office. What happened now? It's like, I'm just kidding, man. I don't know what I'm doing. So here's one more from Vox. In his first 5 months, as a summary, the Trump administration conducted a targeted bombing in Syria, a special operations raid in Yemen, and airstrikes in Iraq, dropped a massive bomb in Afghanistan, and belatedly sent a massive naval force just off the Korean Peninsula. In all of these situations, each with its own complexities and geopolitical ramifications, Trump doesn't mind letting the military run things without commander-in-chief supervision. You know why? He needs adult supervision. He's a child. He doesn't know anything about North Korea or ISIS. Back during the campaign, at one point they asked him the difference between Sunni and Shia and some of the other simple, really, if you're running for president, really simple things that you should know about foreign policy. And he's like, I don't know it, but Hamas, Hezbollah, I don't know it, but I'll figure it out so well when I become president that it'll make your head spin. And what happened? Nothing. He didn't figure it out. Go ahead, I ask him the difference between the Sunni and the Shia. Go ahead, ask him about Hamas. He doesn't know a thing. He thinks that Kim Jong-un has been has been the leader of North Korea under President Obama and President Clinton. No, that's 3 different leaders in North Korea, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know anything. That's why when the generals come and go, okay, now there's a lot of geopolitical ramifications to what we're doing in the South China Sea, and our ships are going towards North Korea. Now what should we do? He's like, I don't know. What do you think? Okay, whatever you say, I'll do that. We elected a goddamn child. And now he's doing what people do when they don't know what they're doing. They're just going, you do it. So what are we gonna do? If you leave the military in charge, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like nails. And they're gonna hammer all over the world. They're gonna get us into more and more messes. And then Donald Trump's gonna go, nobody knew it was this complicated. God help us all. Afghanistan is gonna go from terrible to worse. We're gonna waste more treasure. We're gonna waste more blood. That's because there's a complete and utter moron who doesn't know how to be commander-in-chief in the Oval Office. If you're a conservative and you're supporting Donald Trump, you ought to be embarrassed, man. Have you no goddamn shame? You look at that and go, oh, that's my strong alpha male. You know what alpha males do? But I don't know, you decide. Bunch of losers. Okay, last thing, guys. Every time I think about Donald Trump and how the Democratic establishment lost to him, it makes my blood boil. They lost to a guy whose IQ is in the bottom 10% of the country. If he was on death row, I would say don't execute him because his IQ is not high enough. And the Democratic Party lost to him. And now the Democratic Party says, don't primary us, we got this thing. Oh, unite behind us, we have a winning strategy. What winning strategy? You lost to this buffoon. Step aside. Jesus Christ, man. Bunch of incompetence, both Democrats and Republicans. Our reporter Jordan Chatton broke the Donna Brazile story. He was right, she just apologized for it. Help us get more reporters like that. You're the one responsible for that. Thank you, and let's do more right now at tytnetwork.com/go.